welcome to Triple T and Me. Today, my special guest is Coach Josh Thompson. I'm excited to have him on here, and I'm excited to talk about his life and talk about his team and talk about what's on his mind today. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on today, Tyler.
It's great to have you on here. What do you think about this really interesting time for all of us?
Well, I guess I really don't know what to think. It's a unique season of life that we're all in. I don't think that a month ago anyone would have really believed that we would all be quarantined in the way that we are, that our society would be changed and impacted the way that it has from everything that we're dealing with trying to combat this virus. You know, I think that's one of the things that is important about our faith is for us to be ready to roll with adversity. And, you know, that's why I'm excited to be on here today to talk to you about not only this unique season that we're in, but hopefully how we can come out of this as better people and better Christians.
Absolutely. Well, I love that outlook because I think you're exactly right. I mean, it doesn't do any good to just hunker down, not just physically, but hunker down spiritually too. I mean, we've got to realize that the one we serve is greater than everything, including this virus. And absolutely, we can use this as a time to focus more on God. So I love your outlook, Coach. I wanted to have the Barr-Reeve Viking as my background because I know that you're the current boys head coach at Barr-Reeve, and congrats. Last year you guys went to the state finals and were runner-up, and then you just won your sectional, and unfortunately your season was cut short because of this whole virus. But congrats on that. How has it been coaching at Barr-Reeve?
Well, it's been a definite honor for us to be blessed and to have had the success that we've had as a team the last couple years. And I still, you know, almost like with the virus, you think that you're going to wake up at a point in time and you're going to return to normal. There are times where I think that I'm going to wake up and I'm not going to be as blessed as I am to be able to coach the kids that I'm coaching here at Barr-Reeve. It really is kind of a dream come true for me to be able to coach these types of kids and this type of program and in this type of community. And obviously I couldn't do that without the support of my family, my wife and my daughter and my two sons. And they're an integral part of everything that we do. But thank you for, you know, the congratulations. And it's a definite honor for us to have the program and have had the success that we've had the last couple of years.
Awesome. Well, it's obvious, Coach, just by the little conversation we've already had on here that your faith is very important to you. Can you share when your faith first became a big part of your life?
Well, I think faith has always been a part of my life, but definitely it hasn't been as important to me as it is now. And I think that was probably the real cause as I look back at my life for really some of the struggles that I went through. There were times where I wasn't as strong in my faith as I should have been, and that was nobody's fault but my own. I was raised in the Catholic Church, and then about the time that I was 12 or 13, we left the Catholic Church and went to a Protestant church, Church of God there, where I grew up in Bloomfield. You know, I really thank my mom and my grandma for really giving me the foundation of my faith that I still hang on to today. They are extremely grounded and rooted in their faith. They go to the Tulip Church of God there in Bloomfield now, and it's a wonderful church community that they have there. But going back in just kind of my walk, you know, we went to church, but I just didn't really have that connection with the Lord at a young age. And really about the time that I started dating my wife, when I was teaching at Lagodi, which was my first teaching job, she was going to church at the United Methodist Church there in Lagodi. And so I knew that I really needed to get back to church. And so she started taking me to church on Sunday, and I started to develop a relationship with the Lord. And some of the pastors that were there, Greg Davis, who is a good friend of mine, has had a tremendous impact on me and my journey. with the Lord. There were all these people that were really trying to help me and grow in my faith. Like I said, my mom, my grandma, my wife when we were dating, the minister there at the United Methodist Church. And the thing that I appreciate about all those people is they let me have my own walk. They didn't try to force things on me, even though I think that all of them really prayed for me. I know I had a teammate in high school that when I wasn't going to church, and even in college when I wasn't going to church regularly, he one time told me that my grandma was praying for me and praying for my relationship with Christ. And you talk about that having an impact on somebody. When you find out that people are praying for you in that way, that has a tremendous impact on you. But going back to my walk, I was fortunate enough to become the head coach at Springs Valley. Mm-hmm. And I was there for 5 years. I really enjoyed my time there. I was assistant principal there, which was a really tough job. Again, I was involved with FCA there. I would go to the FCA meetings, but I don't really feel like I was rooted in and had a solid foundation in my faith. But after 5 years of a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication, and from a coaching standpoint, feeling like I was doing things my way, the way that I knew the best approach to try to help our program get to the next level and turn the corner, I really wasn't relying on the Lord. It was on my own understanding and the way that I knew how to do things from a basketball standpoint. But at the end of that 5 years, I was not renewed, fired, whatever you want to call it, from my basketball position. They renewed my contract as an administrator, but they just didn't feel like the basketball program was going in the direction that they felt like it should. And that's a long story in and of itself. But at that point in time, when somebody lets you go, you feel very broken inside. You feel like you failed. And what I didn't realize at the time was that was going to give me unique opportunities that, had I stayed there and continued to be the coach, that I would have never had. Opportunities to coach other kids, to develop other relationships. And, I look back on that time, and now I thank God for the opportunity to really kind of get myself straight with the way I wanted to coach and with the way he wanted me to coach. And I'll never forget, feeling very broken after coming home and talking with my wife and kids about that situation and about how we didn't really know where our future was going to take us. I remember two conversations. One was with the Lord that I had, and I told him, I said, if you want me to continue coaching, I know that, you don't like to be tested and that I shouldn't test you, but give me some type of sign within the next month or so that this is the direction that you want me to continue with my life. Otherwise, I'm fine with just getting into school administration, maybe working my way up to be a principal, superintendent one of these days. But if, getting into coaching is really where you want me, give me a sign within the next month and a half. And the second conversation that I'll never forget was a conversation with my wife. And I told her, I said, if I do stay in coaching and if an opportunity presents itself to me, then, that could cause us to have to move. That could be some big changes in our life. And she said, listen, I really feel like this is what you're called to do. So I'm going to support you no matter what happens here. And she goes, we're just going to put our trust in the Lord. So I went back to prayer, and I told him, I said, listen, I've tried to do this my way for 5 years now. And if you give me another opportunity, I'm going to do this your way. I'm going to involve you in everything that we're doing with our program. And as luck would have it, and I think it was again in his design, about 2 weeks later, I got an email and then a phone call from the athletic director at Wood Memorial High School, Steve Killian. And Coach Killian reached out to me and he said, hey, I'm stepping down as a head basketball coach. I'm the AD. I've talked to some other coaches. We know about your situation. We'd like to have you come talk to us. And so, I guess the rest is history from that standpoint. But again, I know it was a failure. It was a point in my life where I was very low. But, I feel like God used that as a stepping stone in my life.
Certainly. Well, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate you being real and you know, because that's not always easy for people to be, especially when it's hard stuff that you went through. So I appreciate you sharing that, and it's awesome to see how God used that to refocus on Him and doing things His way. So what was it that first led you or helped you to discern that God was calling you into coaching and teaching?
Well, you know, I've just always felt really strongly about that. But going back to that situation when I got the job at Wood Memorial, and I told God, I said, you know, I'm going to do this your way. Wherever, you know, you lead me. And again, it's funny because I've had situations where I went to the Lord and asked for His guidance. And I'm not a believer that the Lord is ever going to give you a sign where you're going to be driving down the interstate and you're going to look up there like we see the Hammer, the law firm road signs there that the Lord's going to speak to you, and it's going to be a sign. It's going to say, Tyler, you need to do this. But I really do feel like God puts people, you know, in our lives to help us through those situations. And He also sends us signs in other ways, whether it's you open up your daily devotional and it's something that's been on your heart and it's a passage in Scripture that guides you. But the confirmation for me that the Lord was really directing me to be where He wanted me to be there at Wood Memorial was, again, I talk about FCA at Springs Valley. I went to the meetings, and it was a lot like church. I was just kind of sitting there, taking things in. I wasn't leading. I wasn't very involved. And so when I told the Lord, I said, I'm going to do this your way, I thought, I'm going to get involved with FCA at Wood Memorial. And so I researched it, and I talked to our principal, and he goes, you know, I think that would be tremendous for you to start FCA at our school. And I go, so you mean we don't have it? And he goes, no, we don't have FCA, but he goes, I'm all for it. So I researched how to get a huddle started. A guy that I really know and respect, Mike Garrett, who lives in the Hobstadt area. He was involved with Southwestern Indiana FCA at that time. He came and met with me in my classroom, and we got the huddle started. We prayed about the success of our huddle. And so in getting to know the players that summer, one of the things that quickly became very evident to me was that one of my players, who was going to be my senior point guard, Connor Mowry, was very strong in his faith. And so after Mike and I initiated the huddle, we got it started, I was like, this has to be student-led. That's the thing I love about FCA. It's student-led. It's not led by myself or Mr. Schwartz at Barr-Reeve. It's led by our students. And so I sent a text message to Connor, and I said, hey, I would really appreciate you helping me to get this started at Wood Memorial. Unbeknownst to me, Connor was at a Bible camp that week. And even though Connor was the quote-unquote kid at school that had it all together, that was tremendously strong in his faith, I didn't know this, but he was really struggling with his faith. And he actually had went into the chapel, took his phone with him. This is how ironic this is. He took his phone with him that day, and he said he was sitting in the chapel at Bible camp by himself. And he was praying to God that he was struggling with his faith, and he just felt like he needed to be led into some type of leadership position to minister to other students. And he was like, God, just help me in some way. Well, again, I had no idea he was struggling in his faith. I didn't even know he was at Bible camp that week. And I said, hey, we're going to start FCA at Wood Memorial. I would like for you to help me do this. And he said that is the exact moment that he got that text message from me. And so that wasn't a Josh Thompson thing. That wasn't a Connor Mowry thing. Wasn't a Mike Garrett thing. That was a God thing. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, Connor then took the bull by the horn, started FCA. We started having weekly meetings at Wood Memorial School that's got about 240, 250 kids. And we're having 40, 50 kids show up to eat donuts, drink chocolate milk, and listen to Connor and other kids talk about God on Tuesday mornings. And it was just phenomenal. But the thing that then, you know, kind of struck me about how God can use people was this was going to be Connor's senior year. Everything was going well. And the kid got a concussion, first game of the year, and then had to miss 6 or 7 games. And so then, because of the injury and because of the fact that things weren't going the way he wanted them, things weren't going the way I wanted them with the team, you know, he and I really had to draw together in our faith. We talked about that with the team, with FCA, and Connor and I still remain very close. He works with his he works as a youth minister at his church in Princeton now. So I'm very proud of him and what he's done with his life. But, that was just confirmation to me that that was exactly where God wanted me to be at that time. And obviously then after being at Wood Memorial and having some success there, we decided to take an opportunity at Vincennes. And the reason why we left Wood Memorial to go to Vincennes is because everywhere that I had coached, I was always driving, and it was away from my family. My kids were still going to school at Lagodi, but taking the job at Vincennes was an opportunity for us to all get together. And so we did that, and we moved over there. We sold our house in Lagodi, and I really felt like that was where God wanted us to be. And again, this is a me thing. I thought, okay, so this is where we're going to be forever. And, we're going to make all these commitments, and we're going to put these roots down, and this is where my kids are going to graduate from high school. And, we spent just 2 short years there at Vincennes, and then things happened at Barr-Reeve, and now we're here. And again, I hope that this is where I retire from, but, if God calls me somewhere else, then I got to listen to him, because he's been awful good to me.
Absolutely. Well, that's great, and I just appreciate your heart, Coach, and appreciate why you do it. Mm-hmm. What college did you go to?
Well, I actually went to 2. I went to Hanover College, and I went there after high school because I still had this itch to play basketball, and I realized that I was slow and I wasn't athletic, but I thought I could compete, and I did, and I still am very good friends with my college coaches that I had there at Hanover. Coach Beitzel, who was our head coach, Coach Miller, who's the head coach at Hanover now, the guy that coached me on the JV team, Toby Kerrigan at the time, is now the head coach at Mount St. Joe in Cincinnati. So I stay in contact with all those guys. And then Kyle Getter, who was our student assistant at that time, is now the director of basketball operations for the University of Virginia. So he's on Coach Bennett's staff out there. So a lot of those guys that within, just a little over a year that I made contact and connections with, I still stay in contact with those guys. And I enjoyed, my time there at Hanover and playing basketball. But then I realized that, again, it was going to take a lot of work, and I was willing to do it to be able to play at that level. But in the meantime, there was an opening at my high school, Bloomfield High School, where I graduated from, as an assistant coach. And so I was looking at, here I am paying $16,000, $17,000 a year to go to a Division III school, and that was with financial aid to continue to follow my dream of playing. Or I could go to a state school, Indiana State or IU, and I could take this coaching position and make a little bit of money on the side. And ultimately, that's what I wanted to do. So I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and pursue that. So I went back. I went to IU, finished my degree in social studies and physical education at IU, and then started coaching with my high school coach, Ron McBride. And that kind of opened some doors for me, and probably looking back was the best thing for me in that time period when I was 19 to 22 years old.
Okay. That's great. So I don't expect you to remember me, but you were at Springs Valley.
Mm-hmm.
I was a student at Crawford County.
Yes.
I was Coach Brown's manager.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that's how we've connected. But you actually know my cousins, Jonathan and Isaac Bowles, better
yes.
than me, because you've worked with both of those and
mm-hmm.
in different capacities. But I know everything I've heard from Coach Brown and from them is positive. So I was so grateful to be able to talk to you today. So thanks for that. Is there anything else that you would like to tell viewers just in this interesting season of life?
Well, there I guess is one thing that I would encourage all your listeners to do is develop your own relationship with the Lord. And I've got my son here telling me that I've got a friend ringing in here, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But again, this is my son, Griffin. You want to say hi to everybody, Griffin? Hi. But it would be to develop your own unique relationship with the Lord. And it's not anything, that, someone else can impose on you or can guide you to. It has to be found yourself. And I think also once you develop that relationship with the Lord, it's like any other relationship, and you have to continue to develop that relationship. One of the ways that I do that is, I don't know if you've ever read anything from John Gordon. He's one of my favorite authors, not only because of his positivity with books like The Energy Bus, but also his foundation in faith. And John Gordon wrote a book with some other guys at one time talking about the power of one word. And so what I encourage my players to do, my assistant coaches, myself, in doing is to have one word that is our focus for the entire year that guides us with our faith. And this year, my word is pursue. And I think having one word and having that focus helps me to pursue the Lord every single day. And some days I'm way better than others. Like today, I'm having an awesome day. I'm talking to you. I did a lot of different things in my devotionals. Yesterday was not a good day. I think maybe the weather had something to do with it. But again, it would be to develop your own relationship, to foster that relationship on a daily basis, and then be a light for other people. One of the things, that we talked about that I told the Lord is I'm going to do this your way. And I think one of the ways that I can help him and be a true disciple is to try to spread the gospel. And we as a coaching staff, this is not a Josh Thompson thing. This is our entire coaching staff. We really work with our guys on their faith. And we have a weekly Bible study that, again, is player-led. And if something happened to me tomorrow and Coach Thompson was gone, hopefully the legacy that the guys that have played for me, especially since I've had that refocus and that reconnection with God, is that my coaching was founded in faith, and that was my way to spread the gospel to guys.
That's awesome. So when you think about heroes in your life, Coach, and obviously I know Jesus comes to the top, but what heroes have you looked up to? Maybe some people that have poured into you personally, or maybe some people you may not know personally, but because of what they've done, you look to them as a hero.
Okay. I would be remiss if I didn't say my wife. Obviously, I look at what she does every single day with how she helps people, and she helps them not only with fitness, but she helps them also with their faith. And she has some people that she works with, and every morning now they're having a prayer meeting, which has been an opportunity for people during this time, I think, to spend more time on their relationship with God. But the two heroes that I have in my life are my mom and dad. And there are a lot of different reasons for that, Tyler. Number one is their example with their relationship. Their marriage has not always been perfect. No marriage is, but just their perseverance through life and their example has been tremendous for my wife and I to try to model our marriage on. But they had a tragedy in 1981 that really, I think, has allowed them to really leave a mark on a lot of different people. And what happened was, in October of 1981, my dad was an EMT, and he was working a couple different jobs, but working night shift as an EMT, and they got called out the night before Halloween. On October 30th, the ambulance hit a patch of ice, slid off the road, flipped. The top came off the ambulance. My dad was thrown from the back of the ambulance. He was back there prepping the gurney. Was thrown into a cornfield, and obviously with ice on the road, it was cold, an early freeze. And so he hit the ground with a lot of force, broke his back, so he's paralyzed from the waist down. And he went through tons of surgeries. It wasn't the broken back that almost killed him. It was the fact that the corn, they had just picked the corn, and one of the stalks went in his leg, severed his femoral artery. So a tremendous tragedy. But his perseverance and him working through that to be the father and to be the husband that he became, I definitely think it puts him on a hero level for me. But then the fact that my mom's life was completely altered, and having to take care of him and to do things house that typically a man would do. Two of the strongest people that you would ever meet, and obviously they would be my heroes. I'll tell you just a real quick story on my dad. When he was in the hospital, recovering from this accident, he was taken care of because he had health insurance. But back in 1981, we didn't have the Affordable Care Act. So if you didn't have insurance, like the reaching rods that have a trigger on them that people that are in wheelchairs can reach things that are above them and to reach out for things that are a good distance away from them and pull them back to themselves. Okay, so Dad had one that was made out of aluminum. But these other guys just had these little dowel rods with a hook on the end of them to try to pull things back with. Dad's insurance company bought him a wheelchair. These other guys who were new paraplegics and quadriplegics were wheeled out of the hospital in the folding wheelchairs that you have, which are not easy to get around. And that was it. And it was basically, see you later, good luck. And so Dad realized that these guys were in a tough spot. And so some of the guys that he was in the hospital with, he wanted to do something for them and to buy them wheelchairs that they could actually get around in. So he devised a plan that he would build a racing wheelchair because my dad was a big track athlete in high school. And so he and my grandfather fabricated a racing wheelchair. So if you've ever seen the Special Olympics and seen the wheelchair racers with the wheels on the wheelchair that tilt in and the seats that are tilted back, they actually engineered and crafted that themselves. Wow. And so Dad did what he called the Marathon for Wheels. And so he got sponsors to donate money, and he wheeled in a wheelchair from Bloomington, Indiana to Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis and completed that journey in 2 days, and did that to raise money for these guys that were in the hospital that were leaving and didn't have nice wheelchairs. So, anytime I'm asked about who my heroes are or hero is, I always talk about my mom and dad. And, that's always meant a lot to me because, when I was down at different times in my life, just like the situation that happened there at Springs Valley, I always think about, okay, what would Dad have done in this situation? How would Mom have reacted to this situation? Two of the toughest people I know. And so I have a lot of gratitude for everything they've done for me and for my brother and sister.
Yes. Yeah. Incredible people. And I can gather that just by the little bit you said. Well, Coach, who do you root for? Do you have I know you said you went to IU, but are you an IU fan? Who's your teams you follow?
Okay. Well, it's funny that you say that because my teams are actually Big Ten teams that I love to watch, but they're not IU. And I respect Coach Miller and everything that he's doing there. But I've developed a friendship with Coach Painter over the years. Not a close friendship. It's not like I'm going to call Matt on the phone and we're going to talk about kids or anything. But anytime that I have an opportunity to be around Coach Painter or talk to him, I do that. He's been very good to me. He's done a lot of things for the Coaches Association that people have no idea that he's done. But I love the way that his team defends. I like the way that they play with a quick pace, but yet they're a disciplined team. So, when people watch my team and they talk about, you guys defend like Purdue or you do different things like Purdue, I take that as a high compliment. And then the other coach that I have a lot of affinity for is Coach Izzo. Rebounding is a cornerstone of our program, and some of his rebounding drills and the technique that he teaches with rebounding. I've always enjoyed watching Michigan State and Matt Painter's Purdue teams. But then when it's just Coach Thompson just kicking back and being a fan, Chicago Cubs baseball, that's where it's at. I've always been a Cubs fan, and that kind of goes back to my dad as well. My dad owned his own business, and he would work in his shop, and he would watch me during the day when I was a kid. And so when I was Griffin's age, I can remember being out in the shop during the day and tuning into the Cubs games because they played during the day. At that time, Wrigley didn't have lights, so they played all their games during the day, and listening to Steve Stone and Harry Carey and those guys, that's how I became a Cubs fan.
That's great. And congrats to having a World Series there a few years ago. So that's great.
I did not think that was going to happen, during my lifetime. And what's interesting about sports is, the Cubs win that thing for the first time in over 100 years. And obviously they've got a good nucleus, a good core now, but it's funny to watch some of these rabid fans that are just killing them about the fact that, they didn't make the playoffs last year. And that was the first time in 5 years that they didn't make the playoffs. And I'm just enjoying the ride.
Well, and then Joe Madden's gone now too. It's like, oh man.
Yeah. There always has to be a fall guy. It's always got to be somebody's fault.
Yeah. So what are you thinking with Grandpa Rossi being the head guy now?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting. And I think, with the nucleus that they've got there, if those guys can continue to show maturity, he's definitely a player's manager. And in that respect, he's a lot like Madden.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be interesting to see how things go. But they've got too much talent not to compete right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time just to chat. And I know that those that get to check this out will enjoy it, especially some of those in your area. So thanks so much. I'd love to close our time together in prayer. Is there any thing I can pray for specifically other than you and your family?
Well, definitely for me and my family, and I know that you'll touch on everybody that's being impacted by the virus. But the big group that really concerns me right now are kids that are seniors. Mm-hmm. I know in our FCA group the other day, one of our teachers, that Mr. Schwartzentruber that helps me with FCA, he wanted to give a special prayer and uplift those kids because, if you can think back to when you were a senior and all the things that were going on that year, whether that be, prom or the senior trip or, graduation is up in the air right now. It may still be held with just close family members being allowed to come into the gym. And then on top of that, the sports seasons that all these kids look forward to. I really feel for the senior class right now. So, and that's not just at Barr-Reeve, that's everywhere. When you look at, you talked about the tournament being canceled. Even though it got canceled, I still consider ourselves to be tremendously fortunate, because if this would have happened at Thanksgiving time, there would have been no 2019-20 season. And so for us to have been able to play and to be able to get through the sectional, I just consider ourselves to be very fortunate in that respect. But yeah, the seniors are the kids I'm most worried about in this time.
Yes. Well, let's pray, Coach.
Okay.
Lord, I thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with Coach Thompson. And I thank you for the man of God that he is. And I thank you for the encouragement that he has given by telling about his mom and his dad and telling a little bit of his story. Lord, I thank you for him and his family. I thank you for his wife and the great team that they are. And I thank you for their kids. And I just pray that you would bless them and their kids. Lord, as we were talking about, this is a really unique season, unprecedented. And Lord, I just pray for those that have been affected by the virus, those that are sick or have been sick, those that have lost loved ones all over the world. Lord, I pray for them. Lord, I pray that you would help us to do our parts by staying in and staying safe so we could prevent this from spreading anymore. Lord, as Coach said, our hearts really go out to those that are seniors. Senior year is such a fun year, and there's a lot of good memories, and those memories have been taken from them. But I pray, Lord, that you would help this year to still be memorable and still be a good year, even with the crazy differences that have occurred, and that will be a part of this year for them. So, Lord, I pray for them. I pray somehow you can still help them to finish their schooling and finish what else they have well, and to enjoy it, and for it not to be a downer, but somehow still be a enjoyable time for them. Lord, I thank you for all the people that Coach has impacted, other coaches, players, students, and just thank you so much for this time. And I thank you, Lord, for the hope that we have in Jesus. And Lord, we pray all this in His name. Amen.
Amen. Tyler, thanks for having me on today, and I hope in some way, shape, or form that this has an impact on at least, one other person in their walk with the Lord.
Absolutely. I hope so too, Coach, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you, like I said, taking the time to talk. Good to get to know you a little better.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Tyler.
Okay. You're welcome. You take care.
All right. You too.